So when we create something that we believe in and that we think is amazing, and we've done the work to really go, okay, like this is what I really can do. Like I can really do this. Like, yeah, I'm really good at this. And someone should pay me to help them do that, right? When I can get you there, that's where we want to be.
Welcome to How to Trust Yourself, the podcast for anyone who's done with the endless second guessing and ready to tune in to your inner guidance. I'm Anna Holtzman, and I get that feeling of trudging through life like you're wading through mud, trying to figure out which way to go. In my 20s, I spent more time asking what should I do with my life than writing about crushes or bad dates in my journal. I've tried on a lot of answers: architecture, publishing, editing reality TV for a decade, and finally landing on therapy and coaching, helping people like you connect with your purpose. But here's the thing I've learned through all those twists and turns. Trusting yourself is the key to moving forward, even when the path feels messy. So if you're ready to stop doubting yourself and start listening to your gut, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Welcome back, dear listener. Today, you're going to meet someone who embodies the exact thing that so many sensitive creatives and midlife reinventors long to believe is possible, that you can change, evolve, outgrow an identity, and step into another one with your whole self, even later in life, even when it feels terrifying, even when the whole world thinks that your lane is already set. Stacey Brass-Russell started her career on Broadway, then became a beloved yoga teacher, then a studio owner, and then a master-level coach and business strategist, all after weathering enormous grief, financial instability, reinvention after reinvention, and the kind of life plot twists that could have made anyone shut down or settle. Instead, she evolved, and then she started helping other people evolve too. This conversation is such a powerful reminder that change isn't a crisis, it's a calling. Stacey and I talked about how to get out of overwhelm and into aligned action, how to build a business rooted in service, clarity, and calling, and what it really looks like to shift your professional identity in midlife without abandoning the parts of you that got you here. If you've been circling a dream, a business idea, or a chapter that you are longing to claim but are scared to step into, this one is for you. Let's dive in. Stacey, welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to meet you. This is one of those situations where I've been like one of those silent fans listening to and just binging your podcast. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, Anna, thank you so much for having me. I'm very, very happy to be here with you.
I'm really excited to get to sit down with you, get to know you a little bit better by chatting with you one-on-one, and also get to share all your goodness with my audience. And for those of my audience who are not yet familiar with your work, could you just say a few words about yourself, what you do, and who you serve with the work you do?
Yes. So my name is Stacey Brass-Russell, and I live in New York. I always like to say I'm in New York City. And I'm a business coach, but I call myself a transformational life and business coach because I am a certified master level life coach, which I think is really important when we're talking to other coaches and wellness professionals and creatives. So I am a business coach, but I really specialize in working with people who are in human focused, transformational type businesses that are really focused around working with human beings and, helping people to get outcomes. And I am an offer optimization strategist and sales coach. So I really, really help people develop their signature work, essentially. Like, what are you really doing in the world? how do we really put the right words to it? Because for people like us, that's always the hardest thing for people is being able to say what they do, right? And really
Make up
feel like
space.
exactly. And
Mhm.
really feel like they're creating offers that really can be delivered in a very clear way to a prospective client so that we can get away from all of that tripping over our words and tongue tied and feeling like I don't know how to describe what I do. And so I really help people create their offers that they can talk about so easily. And then I really also help people to sell them. So most of the people that I coach and work with are not moving in the model of businesses where they are, running thousands of dollars of ads through automated funnels and selling evergreen courses off the back end, right? The people that
Yeah.
I work with are usually selling like more substantial coaching offers, things that we reference sometimes as high ticket, whether it's one on one or group programs. And for a lot of those people, the business model of how to generate leads and how to get people to say yes to working with you is not that whole ads and automations situation. But then that begs the question, but then what is the model? And so I really help people to then create their sales processes, which could be everything from a live webinar, workshop, talk, like the things that you really put together to get an audience to experience you, to even how to have discovery calls and how to really build relationships with people as a sales strategy. So the opposite of bro marketing and all of the stuff that like people cringe, especially heart-centered, soulful business owners, find really cringy. I really help people to build businesses that are based in human relationships.
I mean, this is one of the big reasons why I was attracted to your work and your podcast because my clients, who are a lot like me, and that's why they're attracted to working with me, I my clients often will come to me and say like, I'm starting my coaching business or my creative business or what, I want to expand my business. But like, I'm really not a social media person. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that does not need to be a problem. And go listen to Stacey Brass-Russell's
Well,
podcast.
thank you. Yeah, I mean, listen, look, we have to be very realistic about the fact that social media is there, right? It exists. Like
Yeah,
it's there and it's a free platforms that we have access to and that do give us an opportunity to get in front of people, that are not the people that we might meet in real life, locally, basically.
right.
Um, and so I always say, it's there and everyone else is using it. So I recommend using it. And it's also what most people don't have is a way of seeing that there are many different there's a spectrum of how you use social media and how it functions. This is the really important part, how it functions for you and your business. So like whereas there are some people they love it, whatever, it's in their DNA. They're like an Instagram DNA person, right? And so they use social media and they really it's natural for them. It's like where they want to be. And so how that functions for them in their business is something that someone like me or maybe you, we can't force that. We can't force having that kind of a business from social media, but we can figure out how can social media work for us if we have an idea of our own business strategy basically, right? And
Yeah.
we recognize like where in our client journey or I know people get a little bit scared when they hear the word funnel, but like your organic funnel, your funnel. Like the funnel is like, how do people discover you? And then what's the journey they take until, or if they become ready to actually pay you money? And how do you orchestrate that funnel, and therefore can social media play a part in that journey for you, but can you actually then know what part it plays so that you can leverage it the right way for you versus feeling like this very, very false like belief that people have, which is that is that their business is going to literally come from social media. And
Yeah.
for most people, that's not how it happens.
Absolutely. And I think, when a lot of people who are newer or just getting into having their own business, when they hear the term marketing funnel, they think of like machinery, right? And
Exactly.
what I love about the way you talk about things is you talk about relationships, which is really
Mhm.
how I relate to doing business as well. And what I also connected to in your work and your story is that you are a multi-passionate, and you didn't just pop out of the womb as a life coach.
Right.
You have a creative background, as I do as well. I come from a film and TV background, and before that a publishing background. I'd love for you to share with listeners what path led you to what you're doing now, because not only do I want them to learn a little bit more about who you are and why you're doing what you do, but I think that, even if their paths are very different, what they will see themselves in is the
Mhm.
possibility of reinventing yourself.
Yes. Well, I I have been using the word evolution and evolve for a very long time before I was even a business coach, which I often say I'm the accidental business coach. I'm like this. I'm the person who became a business coach by demand. It was not if you asked me, did I ever know I would have this particular. I mean, I think I thought that I was going to help people in some way make money. And so I'll tell you the trajectory. So I was a performer. I started when I was 10 years old. I was actually in the original Broadway production of Annie in 1979
Oh,
for
cool.
2 years. And honestly, at that time of my life, I never ever thought I would do anything other than be a performer, be especially be on Broadway. And I pursued my career in show business. I was in Fiddler on the Roof on Broadway when I was 20 or so, or 21. And I continued. I had a lot of success in show business. I had a voiceover career, and I worked in really great theaters all over the place. And then when I was uh 30, when I was turning 30, I was doing a show in San Diego at the Old Globe Theater. And whenever you do regional theater, well, I shouldn't say whenever. When I did back, things may have changed. But back then, if you had a really good gig, they really set you up. And one of the things that they did was they gave us a membership to this like gym that was, in the local area.
Yeah.
And at that gym, which, once a show is running and you're not in rehearsal and you're just doing the shows at night and stuff, you've got all day to, do whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was going to this gym and they had yoga classes, and I started taking yoga for the first time. And this was before yoga was, the trendy. And I fell in love with yoga. I mean, I come from a background of being a dancer, a performer. I mean, a real, body person, as you and I, share. Like, um,
Yeah.
our work is very somatic and very much like, and that's always been me. I mean, if you're a performer, your body is, your instrument. And I'm a singer, so I fell in love with yoga. And when I came back to New York after that show, I I specifically said to my agent at the time, "Listen, I don't want to keep going away to do shows because every time I'm away, I'm not in New York and I miss any auditions for like a Broadway show and stuff. So I really need to like stay put, so don't send me on auditions for, regional theater for a little while. I really need to just like be here doing, so I'm available if there's an audition." And so, simultaneously, and this might get, I don't want to make this too long of a story, but just simultaneously, we had a strike in the
Yeah.
union, the commercial union, basically,
Yeah.
and our Screen Actors Guild. And I, at the time, used to make a decent amount of money in commercials and voiceovers, which is part of why I felt like, well, it's okay if I like don't take the next regional theater gig, but I didn't really at that time I had like I had some catering gigs that I was able to do when I needed them, but it was we were on strike. And so I was not doing any voiceovers or commercials, so that income wasn't coming in, and all of a sudden I was having to take more catering gigs, right? And so the good news about that is like because I'm me, every job I ever have, even if it's like not using like my talent, I'm like good at all the jobs, right? I mean, this is
Yeah.
like me. I'm like the girl that like, put me in and I'll like, I'll sure, I'll learn it. I'll do it. I mean, I temped at a publishing at a PR firm for
Yeah.
publishing. And, back then she was like, do you want to just work here? And I was like, no, I'm an actress. And she was like, but I'll give you a real job. And I was like, I'm an actress, every job I ever had, they were like, can we hire you? And I was like, no, I'm an actress, right? But I would be the best at it, And so I learned how to be an event planner. I learned how to run weddings. I did all this stuff. So anyway, though at that point I was like, you know what? If I'm going to have to make money when I'm not acting, I think I would really enjoy teaching yoga. I'm like so
Yes.
into it. I'm so into the spiritual and to the way it makes me feel, like the nervous stuff, and it wasn't like hot workout yoga. It was like vinyasa yoga, but it was like real yoga with like spiritual and philosophy and everything and the physical. And I was
The
like,
mind body connection.
yeah. And I was like, I'd be a great yoga teacher because I love creating the whole journey of, you know, like starting the class and having a great playlist and having it build and having the peak pose and, doing the lights. Like, I mean, I was totally into it.
You're
Like a
coming from theater, so
yeah,
you've got that
exactly.
whole
I
thing.
was like,
Yeah.
my students would come have this like whole, experience, a
Yeah.
transformational journey, right? And so I did a yoga teacher training. I started teaching yoga. And honestly, Anna, I became a really popular yoga teacher very quickly.
I
And
believe it.
yeah, and so at this moment of my life, so many things were going on. I mean, as we all have personal life stuff going on, and I was in my 30s at this point, and I had gone through a difficult time in my 20s because I had lost my dad when I was 19, and
Yeah.
whatever. We all have life, right? And so I got to this point where I didn't want to give up show business, but on the other hand, I also had never made enough money on my own, like kind of consistently to have my own apartment. And I was in my 30s and I was like, "Oh my god, I don't want to keep having a roommate." And I was single. So, I actually like allowed myself to really see the yoga teaching as an opportunity for me to use like all of these like gifts and talents and skills that I had. I was just using them in like a little different way, right?
Yes.
And so I
Yes.
became really successful as a yoga teacher, which ultimately led to an opportunity with a guy who wanted to make an investment in opening a studio. And I opened a yoga studio with some business partners. And by then I was like certifying people to be yoga teachers. I'm a curriculum writer, I'm a course creator. I was leading retreats all over the world using all of the whole catering thing like
Yes.
translated into like I know how to like create events and do all these things, right?
Amazing.
So I was doing that, and then 7 years into owning the yoga studio with business partners, the business partnership did not feel aligned, and I was turning 50, and I really felt like I don't think that this can be like I don't think I can I am not someone who stays in a miserable place.
Yes, I relate to that. I feel like anyone who's so in touch with their mind-body connection, it's like a blessing and a curse, but the
It
blessing
is.
is you can't stay in discomfort
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
forever. Yeah.
And think about it. I had been at this point in the yoga classroom for 17 years,
Wow.
having students like tell me, pour their hearts out, tell me everything, come up to me. And I knew about everyone's everything from like physical stuff, like the person coming up to you and being like, my shoulder's been hurting me for like 5 months, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, like we need to get that checked out, and then to people telling me that they were so unhappy at their job or in a relationship or in a situation
Yes.
they were in, and yet they weren't doing anything about it. Like they like
Yeah.
in a weird way they were using yoga to like give them momentary and temporary like
Yeah.
reprieves, and they like a yoga class, they'd feel so much better, but then they would just go back out into their life and the world, and nothing would be different.
They were presenting you with life coaching problems, but that wasn't the solution completely that you were offering at the time.
Exactly. They were
Yeah.
they were telling me stuff that I knew that yoga was a catalyst for, like, I knew that in order for us to make big changes or to step into the unknown or to say yes to some sort of like transformation, or to do the things that like in the moment sound impossible or scary, right?
Yeah.
I knew that yoga was like it was the step one in a way.
Right.
It was
Yes.
the sort of like aligning of your physical and emotional and mental and energetic systems. It was like it
Yeah.
was the calming down. It was the learning how to manage your thoughts. It was recognizing that your nervous system is was not designed to be in fight or flight and in your sympathetic nervous system all the time. But unfortunately, we live in a time when it's no longer something that happens automatically where you cycle through the sympathetic and the
Yeah.
parasympathetic. It like we're not living in that time anymore, right?
Right.
And I became a yoga teacher right after 9/11, and my students were like
Wow.
traumatized New Yorkers, right?
Yeah.
And just think about it, who's in New York? Like it's type A
Yeah.
traumatized New Yorkers, right? And so from very early on in my yoga work, I became like the expert in restorative yoga and like nervous system regulation because my people, like, I was like, well, it's not going to really be right for me to teach people like hard yoga classes where their nervous systems are actually being sort of like, like hyped up and where we're creating a lot of stimulation on a nervous system that's already stimulated, that's already stressed, that's already whatever. And then people can, what am I doing? How am I serving people if all I'm doing is perpetuating their state of being, I call it like, being jacked. You know what I mean? Their nervous system being jacked.
Right. And you actually need to slow down and soften before big transformation is possible. I mean, this
You
trajectory of
won't even
your
take the
yeah,
action,
yeah.
right? And
It makes
so
so much sense why, like, your progression has
yes.
gone where
So
it's
when I
gone.
realized like I don't want to own the yoga studio anymore, and then I also knew that I didn't want to like go back out. I didn't want to go backwards and become a yoga teacher that was like running around town trying to like teach yoga in gyms.
Yeah,
If I wasn't going to own a business anymore, I needed to evolve into like what was going to be my next thing. And a friend of mine that had done the original yoga teacher training with me that I did, so 17 years ago,
yeah,
she reached out to me because she had gone in this direction of Ayurveda. Like she was really into like Ayurveda, and she became like an Ayurvedic coach, a health coach, but like an Ayurvedic. And she, at that time, she said, "Look, I'm running my first group program. I don't have enough people signed up. Will you just take it? Like, I'll give it to you for free. Will you just be
yeah,
one of the people so that I actually have like 5 women that I'm running this with?" And so I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so I signed up for her thing, and Anna, like in like two of the sessions, I was like, "This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be a coach, right?" I At the time I didn't know life coach, but I knew health coach was part of it, because I've always been like a resource for people about like health and wellness. I myself have always been like very much someone who's like always finding out like all of the important things about taking care of ourselves and whatever.
yeah,
And so I became, so when I looked into, I didn't want to be an Ayurvedic coach. So when I looked into health coaching, the school I found was for health and life coaching. And
yeah,
so I did this dual certification. And by the end of the certification, I knew that like the life coaching piece was the piece, especially that felt the most tied to the yoga for me, because what it felt like was what I needed to combine the like kind of teaching people how yoga brings you into the right ripe place. Like it helps you to get yourself into the right state for being available to then take action, which is not what yoga is really about, right?
Yes.
So it's kind of like the end goal of yoga isn't that you're going to sit around unless you're like going to become like a monk or like unless you're going to like literally become someone who gives up all your worldly everything and you're just going to go meditate like in a cave.
Yeah.
If you're going to keep living in the world, then yoga isn't a destination. It's actually a place for you to get to that becomes a jumping off point for you to do the things that you really want to do, but it doesn't feel like you can do them right now because your nervous system is so freaking like confused and you're overwhelmed and everything is scary and you're the way you're relating to your mind and to yourself is all through the lens of fear and so once you can calm all of that down, you can then see more clearly and then you can actually take aligned action, one action at a time toward the things that you really, really want to do. You can't even see the vision for what you really want when you're in that contracted, chaotic nervous system.
A quick pause here because I want to invite you into something that I think could shift the way you feel about showing up. If you're a sensitive creative or entrepreneur, and the idea of being really seen and heard brings up fear, resistance, or that, oh no, not me feeling, you are in good company. My free visibility workshop, Let Yourself Be Seen, is all about making visibility feel safe to your nervous system and true to you. We'll explore how to work with fear as a doorway into more authentic self expression so you can share the work that matters most to you without pushing, pretending, or burning out. You can save your spot or catch the replay at annaholtzman.com/be seen. Okay, let's get back to the conversation. I love this so much. I mean, yeah, this is why I reached out to you. I so connect with the work you're doing and we're coming at things from different angles, but like there's so much overlap. And
Yeah.
so like in my journey was not through yoga. It was through coming from a creative background and then developing chronic pain
Mm.
in the form of migraine and finding this whole world of mind body medicine,
Yep.
using the mind body connection to work through that whole symptom vortex and
Yep.
coming out the other side, which is, like you were helping people with yoga, I was helping people as a therapist recover from chronic pain.
Yep.
And then when they start to emerge from it, it's like, okay, well, now what's next? Now I
Yeah.
want to expand into the what's next, which is like this big, like breath of air. Like I want to expand. And then almost immediately there's this
Yep.
contraction, like, oh my gosh, so overwhelming. Like,
Yeah.
where do I go from here? And this is where I want to lead into my next question for
Yeah.
you. So, a lot of my listeners are folks who kind of come along with me, also on their own healing journeys, and they're like in this moment of opening up to what's next. Many of them are longing to turn their passion into a business, which is what you specialize in.
Yeah.
But they can get really overwhelmed when it comes to like the how of doing it and what
Yeah.
to do next.
Yeah.
And you talk a lot about helping your clients get out of overwhelm
Yeah.
and into action. So, where do you start with them?
Yeah. So, oh, this is so good. So, when I said before I kind of became the accidental business coach, it's because I never thought of it as business coaching. But when I first became a coach, and I'll just tell you that one of the things that I heard from the people that were sharing all of their stuff with me over the years was that the thing that was holding them back from making the change, quitting the job, uh, getting the divorce, like or maybe something happened to them. Maybe they got fired or maybe someone left them or maybe someone passed away. But the thing that was keeping them from moving forward was the total paralysis that they needed money
Yeah.
and they didn't know how if they were going to be able to replace that income or make their own money, like if they had been in a long-term relationship, or so much was about money. I'm just going to tell you, like right off the bat. Okay. So there was,
It's a big part of life, and
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
big, fear area
yeah.
for so many
It's
of us.
huge, it's
Yeah.
huge. And so then here's me, okay, who doesn't have a college degree. I mean, I dropped out of NYU when I got into Fiddler on the Roof, okay? Like, I dropped out, and I never got to go back because, as I said earlier, my dad died, whatever. And so here I am at this point, I'm, like, about to turn 50 when I made this decision to leave the yoga studio, and I had somehow managed, I mean, that's not like I was raking it in, but I am somebody who has consistently figured out how to make money. Like, I
Mm.
have never let making money be the thing that held me back from saying yes to things or thinking that I could do these things, right? And I
Yes.
was like, but I'm smart and I have this skill, and I learned how to be a catering event person. I learned, I know how to do this. I'm really good at this. I can use, and I've managed to make money my whole life by just going, "Oh, I think I'm really good at that. So I want to make money doing that. I don't want to make money doing something I don't like or right?"
Yes.
So when I first became a coach, my intention was to help people to believe that they could take something that they are passionate about or that they know they're great at, even if it's because you've just accumulated all. Now, I mean, so you've been taking yoga for 15 years and you love yoga and you're passionate about it. If you want to become a yoga teacher, should you do a teacher training? Yeah. Do I think you should just go out into the world and say that you're a yoga teacher? Probably not, because I do think that teaching and coaching, I think those are skill based like things that, like, if you're going to say you're going to do them, it's different than being a consultant, for example, or putting together a service based business because you know that you can do something, and now why not have people pay you to do it, right? So there's a spectrum of a service based business, but for the most part, I realized that people were not believing that they could leverage or take their experience, the thing they love, the thing they're passionate about, the thing that, and also see all of the different talents, right? So it's like, even though I'm not right now in this moment of my life continuing to pursue being on Broadway and having a Tony Award, okay? What I do is I put on unbelievably successful like live workshops and launches, and I'm doing my in-person event in New York in October, where where to me that's my opportunity to get on stage and do my thing, like what I'm really good at. I'm really good at inspiring people and motivating them, and I can hold a room for 2 days, I know that. And so when I first became a coach, it was because I was like, I don't think people I don't think people have enough confidence and courage
Yes.
to believe that they could evolve into something different or new. A lot of times also, this is when people, I mean, obviously I work with people that are in their 20s and 30s, but I do find that a lot of times when people are in their 40s and 50s and beyond is when they're seeking an evolution or maybe starting something new. And there's so much that comes up around like it being too old. You being too old, it's too
Yeah.
late. You need to be younger to do these things. I mean, so much stuff comes up.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I first start work, so when I first became a coach, I was like, well, let me help people see their possibility that they can do something. And then it really evolved into business coaching when a lot of other coaches, and I was a health and life coach. I mean, that is what I was. And I
Yeah.
made six figures as a health and life coach in my first like less than 18 months as a coach. And I had a lot of colleagues and friends that went to the training that I went to. And when they started finding out that I was making six figures as a health and life coach and they couldn't even get a client, they started reaching out to me and being like, "Can you help me? Like, what are you doing?" And so And that's when I sort of was like, at that point, my coach at the time was like, you're a business coach. And I was like, I don't know if I'm qualified. And he was like, what do you mean? You're helping people with their businesses. So when I first start working with somebody, the very, very first thing that we do is like, I call it this sort of like deep excavation. It's this real deep work in asking yourself a lot of questions like,
Yeah.
right? Like what do you really feel is the thing, like first of all, what lights you up? Like what part of your talent, like what are
Yeah.
you so great at? And I have to teach people how to brag about themselves. Like it is so hard for so many people to like literally make a list of all the things you're great at. And I'd be like, don't think about business right now. I want you to tell me if you're great at like petting a dog, write it down. I'm like, I want to know all the things that you're great at doing, right? And
Yes.
and when we start to do that, we will then start to see things emerging. That's first of all, right? Then we talk about what would you like to get? This is like the hardest question, but like, what do you want to get paid for?
Oh, and that I think can be such a triggering
Yeah.
question, don't
Yeah.
you think?
Yeah. So I'm like, what do you want to get paid for? Because like at the end of the day, I'm like, you could tell me that you really want to start a podcast
Yeah.
and I'll be like, awesome. Well, do you need to make money? Because like, let's talk about like whether or not that, like, I know you want to start a podcast, but how do you actually, what do you want people to pay you for?
Yes. And, is it okay if I lead this into
Yeah.
another question?
Yeah.
Because I think what I see in a lot of my clients, and I'm sure you're seeing it in your clients, because I think this is a big reason people come to you, is that the money questions are triggering because there are feelings and beliefs around, is it, do I deserve to even want to make money? Is it ethical for me to want to make money? Is it, all of these things. So what are some of the beliefs and stumbling blocks that come up around this?
Yeah.
And how do you help people A, believe that it's okay to even want
Mm,
this, and B, believe that it's possible for them to make a an abundant and ethical living doing something they actually love? And I
yeah.
know you have a resource related to this too,
Yeah,
so
yeah, 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 yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I have a money mindset. We talk a lot about money mindset. I talk a lot about it. And I do have a resource that will be able to give everybody listening. It's kind of like it's the shifts that you need to make. And it's a very somatic. This it's seven things that you can start doing that
Yeah.
will change your relationship to making money. And some of these beliefs that we have. Now, I mean, look, the beliefs are they're not all universal, right? Like our beliefs around money are formed, I mean, like literally when we are practically like when we're born, because like we start hearing our family money story, we adopt that story.
Yeah.
And like what our parents say, even if they don't mean to say it a certain way, or whoever your family of origin is, we learn a lot from that, first of all. And so that can create, I mean, the limiting beliefs that get created depending on who's putting stuff into your mind, right? Then you and I talk a lot to people who are creatives, right? Which we always say, like, I always say, like, being a starving artist is an identity. It's a badge of honor. Like, it's also, you're part of a club when you're like part of
It's
like the people,
belonging,
yeah,
right?
who
Yeah.
can't make money because of our art and all of this. It becomes like, if you want to break free of that and you want to go, you know what? I actually want to make money. Now what? What are all your friends going to think? They're going to be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, so you're leaving us? So you're better than us?" So there's a lot. There's a lot about what other people are going to think. There's also a lot about like, what thinking that people won't pay, right? Now, I owned a yoga studio. You have no idea how many times I would have to hear from people being like, if we raised our prices by $2, people would like lose their minds. I'd be like, well, we are providing like a studio and like a place and props and like, whatever. And we've got to run a business. But, there are certain things that people think they associate with like it shouldn't cost me any money. So there's all of this stuff that contributes to, and then there's all of the the worthiness is, it's kind of complex because there's, on the one hand, there's that worthiness piece that could be a very old like story and belief coming from literally, your parent saying to you, you can't have that. Like, that's way too expensive. And all you need to do is hear that once when you're 5 and decide that you're not worth an expensive toy. And that's going to
Yes.
like, say so much about what you think about your worth. But then there's also the whether or not you've earned, and I'm going to tell you one of the ways that I help people with this, whether or not you can ask people to pay you money because they're going to think that you're an imposter, or they're going to find you out. They're going to find
Mhm.
out that you don't know everything on the face of the earth. They're going to find out what a fraud you are. And, they're not going to want to pay you, or you're going to tell someone how much it costs to work with you, and they are going to laugh in your face and they are going to embarrass you, and no one's going to say yes. So why even bother?
Or they're gonna say, like, something that makes you feel guilty for charging
Horrible.
that amount.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so
Yeah.
expensive, right?
Yeah.
Or so
Yeah.
many things. And so one of the way that I help people right off the bat, I mean, obviously there's actual mindset work we can do. And in the resource that we'll give out, if people want it, they can download it. There is some, like, it kind of goes from some more somatic work, right? Like, where
Yeah.
it's kind of like you have to change your relationship to things like the universe, because, to be
Yeah.
honest with you, or
Yeah.
that which is greater, whatever you want to say, is this sort of like source or higher power or bigger energy. Like, you have to not think that money is like this sort of finite object that's in scarce supply. And you have to learn how to recognize money as energy, and that
Yeah.
we are all operating within this energetic universe, and there are principles, right? So what do you think the laws, right? The laws of attraction, the laws of abundance, the laws of, right, all of the laws, right, that we know that exist out there, that we reference when we're talking about manifesting. There's all kinds of laws of nature, essentially. And these laws are all based in the idea that there are certain like characteristics of the universe, or of source, or of God, or whatever, that mean that we have infinite and abundant supply of resources that we need.
Yes. I wanna bring in, like, a little analogy here because I think it'll feed into what you're sharing, and particularly with this audience, many of whom, not all of them, but many of them have been with me since I was focusing on mind-body recovery for chronic pain symptoms, and something that we see and experience a lot in that world is a like during the stage of being really entrenched in the symptoms, is like, I feel like, do I deserve to heal? Is it
Yeah.
okay to heal? And am I going to lose all of my friends who I made through
Yep.
the chronic pain,
Yep.
world,
It's a
if
bonding.
I
Suffering is a very
yes,
is something to bond over.
bonding. It's very bonding, and there's this, like, fear of breaking allegiance. Um
Yeah.
and, that's exactly what you were talking about with, the starving artist
Yep.
bond, a fear
Yep.
of losing friends and connection
And identity. Because
and
if you also
identity.
think about, like, if you've had an identity, and you know what? being a chronic pain sufferer, having, certain issues, it can really become part of your identity. And I mean, I have experienced with at least one that's coming to mind. I'm sure there's more than one life coaching client who, you know, where it got to the point in our work of like working together for a year, 2 years, whatever, where I really felt like I had to say, I want you to know that like you get to decide when healing. I mean, obviously with chronic pain, there's an actual physical, tangible, and real marker of like, are you not in pain anymore? But I think that like with some of the other types of suffering or healing that we go through, I have always believed that like that at some point you have to make the decision that like that
Yeah.
you're good. You have to make the
Yes.
decision because there's never going to be a time that we're not going to still need to still continue to be taking care of ourselves. Like, in other words, like whatever got you out of chronic pain, right, is something that you started doing that was the thing that made it possible for you to get out of chronic pain. So, the thing you have to remember is that to stay out of chronic pain, what you did was you learned what you need to be doing in order to not be in chronic pain. And you have
Yeah.
to keep doing that. The work is just ongoing to sort of like we're always going to have to do a touch up on ourselves. We're always going to like but I think that a lot of times this sort of decision
Yeah.
it's a decision. And I know that might be a little controversial, but I actually really believe it.
I love that so much, and it certainly resonates with my experience in chronic pain recovery. Something that I've talked about a lot is that my recovery had many different stages, and one like a what felt like a culminating stage was deciding that I am now 100% imperfectly healed.
Yes.
That doesn't mean I don't get symptoms anymore. It means
Right.
that doesn't control my life anymore. And I'm curious if you I would imagine you probably have an analogy to that with like the money, the wound around like, is
Mhm.
it okay for me to earn money or is it possible for me to
Yeah,
earn money?
yeah. I mean, I think that like our relationship to money and with money is something that is okay. So one thing that I love is recognizing that every time we hit a certain level, my one of my coaches always used to say, "New level, new devil." Right.
Yes. Yeah.
And I love that. And I've adopted that myself, which is, we're always going as soon as we create a new level for ourselves that we're actually operating in a new way, like, right? So
Yeah.
if you asked me when I started this business if I had even remotely thought that I would be earning multiple six figures with my own coaching business and doing what I'm doing now, I could not have told you that, yes, it wasn't even like an idea.
Yeah.
And so I do think that in order for us to see that like next level for ourselves, whatever that is, we have to go in baby steps, right? And we don't know what is going to be revealed until we kind of like get to the first the first hurdle. So you had asked me before like how do I help people like kind of like shift over into the mindset of like am I
Yeah.
the worthiness. And what I said was well there's the one piece that is maybe from like some deeper stuff and that's the transformational kind of life coaching work, right? And
Yeah.
then there's the stuff that has to do with the business, okay? And then so I focus with anyone who comes to me for help like making money or with their business. The very first thing that I work on with people is and it begins with what I said, what are you really great at doing? Right? And we get so into that. And then the very first thing that we do is we craft what I call your signature offer. And your signature offer is not like how many sessions and how many things is included or how many times can they like text you or like it's not that. It's not how many months is it? It's not that at all. Right? Or how many videos or templates, right? Your signature offer is how you put together, and it can evolve, but like the very first thing that we need to do is really go, okay, so like, what do you really do? And like, what do you really like? What are the outcomes? What are the results? And, but from my yoga background, especially as a physical asana teacher, I'm a reverse engineering, like, that's how my brain works, right? So we
Yeah.
reverse engineer everything. So we go, okay, what do you really want to help people do? Like, if you had a client and they paid you money, what can you tell them? This is what, by the end of our work together, this is what I'm going to help you to. And I like to say, be, do, or have, or all three, really. Like,
Yeah.
what am I helping you to become? What am I helping you to do? And what am I helping you to achieve or have? Like, and when we know what we're best at helping people to do, and this is why the very first thing I do with people is we spend the most time on this, because everything else after that is, how can you get someone to buy it? Okay. But the first thing we have to do is figure out, what are people buying? Like, when someone pays you, what are they paying you for? And I want people to have an offer, and we craft this. I mean, it's your signature work. We create a framework for you. We create, like, we go deep. I'm like, tell me all the things you're going to want to talk about your client with. Tell me, or talk to your client about. Tell me all the things, all the tools. Tell me all the little exercise. Are you going to bring in somatic work? Do you do breath work? Do you do, like, tell me all the things that make you you. Tell me everything that makes Anna Anna,
It's kind of a
right?
who are you, which
Who are
is
you?
a
What's the
complex
work you
thing
do?
to
What's the
answer.
passion? What are you good at? And who do you want to do this with? Okay. And when we create that offer, my first goal for you is that when you tell somebody about it, that
Yeah.
you can't wait to tell them about it. And when we come up with that first investment price for your offer, it doesn't have to be what it might ultimately be. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be the $5,000 offer, the $10,000. It could be the $1,500 offer, whatever. But what we do first is we do the work for you to create the offer that literally, I always say, when I make my offer for my Passion Prosperous Academy, like off of my launches, like, I'm gonna tell you, like, 90% of the time, I actually start welling up with emotion. I start, like, a little
Yeah.
crying whenever I say, and I'm inviting you to join me in the Passion Prosperous Academy, because I love the academy so much. I've created something that I feel is so amazing, right?
Yes.
So when we create something that we believe in and that we think is amazing, and we've done the work to really go, okay, like, this is what I really can do. Like, I can really do this. Like, yeah, I'm really good at this, and someone should pay me to help them do that, right? When I can get you there, that's where we want to be. And
Then you're
then,
connected. The
yeah,
mind and body are connected,
exactly. When
right?
you're feeling it. And so the first pillar of my framework, right, for my business framework that I teach is embody.
Yeah.
Embody is the first pillar. Embody is, you need to be 1000% sold on you and how good you're going to be at doing what you do, and how the offer that you've created is like drool worthy for your ideal client. That when your ideal client hears how you're going to help them, she or he or they are going like, oh my God, that sounds like exactly what I need. And when I can get you there, then telling somebody how they can work with you, or inviting them to work with you. And then, look, is it always going to be scary to start telling people how much it costs? Yeah, but that's a muscle.
Yeah.
That's a muscle.
Yeah.
The you got
Graded
to,
exposure, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You got to do it, right?
Yeah.
But then, does it get better? Does it get easier? Yeah, until you're ready to raise your price. And then you got to start over again. But like, this is the work that we do. But the number one thing is, let's get you. You're never going to get there if you stay in the mindset that you're selling coaching, for example.
Yeah.
Meaning, oh, I sell coaching. We have 12 sessions a month. We work together for 3 months. Like,
No
you're
mind body connection there.
and no money, no,
Yeah.
you can't make the leap from a number of sessions to $1,500. Uh,
Because it's a relationship, right? Like
yes,
the exchange of money is part of relationship. It's energy exchange, like you're saying.
yeah,
And we don't exchange energy based off of the the reading the back of a cereal box and what the
Yeah,
ingredients are.
exactly, the list
Yeah.
of stuff, and I also think that, I really try to help people get connected to the idea because people forget that, like, but we're all human beings, and we're all operating in the same way, which is everybody buys stuff. Everybody pays for the things that they want.
Yeah.
Everybody, like, the words "I can't afford that" are completely subjective. What one person thinks is expensive, someone else thinks is a good deal. And when you start to learn these things, right? Some of it you just have to kind of like you have to have a coach like me tell you these things and go
Yes, someone
over and
who's been
over.
on who's already had the reps
Yeah.
and the graded
Yeah.
exposure and is
Yeah. And been like,
Right.
listen, I'm when I tell you this, you gotta believe me. What for some person is completely out of reach and unattainable, whatever, for
Yeah,
somebody else, it's like it's exactly what they thought it was gonna cost. For when someone says, "I can't afford it," and you let if you let that I always say there's a I have a training that I call like prosperous sales mindset, okay?
yeah,
And so one of them, it's kind of like the five things that like keep you from having that, and one of them I call it vampire syndrome, right? That's one of them. Vampire syndrome is when you think that other people are going to invite themselves to work with you, right? Because vampires have to be
right,
invited in. And I always say, like, you have to be the one inviting your clients. But one of the other ones is what I call superimposer syndrome. And superimposer syndrome is when one person, just one person, says something to you like, "Oh, I can't afford that," or "That's so expensive." And then you take that
right.
and you get off that call or that conversation, and from now on, your entire belief, you replace that one person with everyone. And you
Yes,
go, "Because this
absolutely.
one person said I can't afford it," now you're going, "No one can afford it." Or right?
Right.
Or everyone's going to say that to me. And I'm like, "No, that was one person."
Right, and we're not necessarily making the connection that, like, the because we all have a million memories like this in a million different categories of life, not just with money, right? It reminds me of when I was in 2nd grade and I raised my hand enthusiastically and the teacher was in a bad mood that day and she said, "Nobody likes a know-it-all, Anna," right?
Exactly.
And then that becomes like, "Oh, this is never okay."
Exactly.
That's what happens.
Exactly. So
Mhm.
that's superimposer syndrome, right? And we
Yeah,
do it with a lot of stuff, but especially with we just need one person to say one thing. And then we're like, "I can't make my offer anymore. I can't, no one's going to pay for it. Everyone's going to think I'm crazy." And we just make up
yeah.
a whole story. And that really gets in our way of selling. And, I also think that well, I try to use the word selling a lot because I think that we have to stop, especially like heart-centered, soulful, people. We have to like not think sales or selling is a dirty word. And we
Take the
just have
fear out of it.
yeah. But we
Yeah,
also have to remember that like we can find so much of what other people decide they don't like about selling is when they're on the receiving end of all of the shit that happens like, on when you get like all these unsolicited
right.
cold DMs on yeah, everybody's constantly reaching out to you and pitching you and you didn't even ask, like you're not even following them. Like
Right.
and so you start feeling like and then maybe you've been at a webinar or workshop where like it just felt really salesy or really broy or
Right.
whatever. And
Or
then
even in a store where someone came up to you too quickly and never let you
exactly.
alone. Yeah.
Exactly. And so then you start thinking that that's what all sales experiences are like. And and then what you start doing is, well, I don't want to do that. And so then I have to say to my clients, okay, well, but then what do you want to do? Because you
Yes.
still have to, if you want to make money, you have to be willing to sell your services. So how do you want to do that?
So, Stacey, we're coming into the last
Yes.
little portion of this interview, and I feel like this is such a good I mean, everything you've been saying is a good lead in, but I think listeners will really want to get this resource that you
Yes.
mentioned earlier. Will you please tell us what it's called and how they can find it
Yes, yes. So, well, you'll have the links. You'll
in
have
the
the
show
link
notes?
in the show notes. But it's called Stacy's 7 actionable steps to shift your mindset, get in gear, and start making money right now. Now, this is a worksheet that we ultimately created to go with an episode of my podcast. And you and I, Anna, are recording this a couple of months before it's going to come out. So you know what?
Yeah,
By the time this comes out, it may be that there's also a little video from me to accompany this because I like to
amazing.
make little videos. But really, it's this is the beginning of what we're talking about, and I think
Yeah,
that in order to make money. What I want, I mean, if you wanted me to say like what can I leave people with? Maybe you don't want me to say that, but here's what I'm going to say:
please.
in order to make money in your business, you have to be willing to sell your services. And you have to remember that, like, you're not selling yourself. You're not, you're not, no, this isn't about what are you worth or people investing in you. At the end of the day, people are investing in themselves. It's always really important to remember that people are investing in themselves. They're not investing in you, right?
Yeah.
And this isn't about putting a price tag on yourself. But if you want to make money in your business, there's only one way to do that. No one is going to be like calling you or like banging on your door and being like, "Can I pay you money? Can I work with you?" You have to sell. And the thing that you have to remember is that there's a way for you to sell in a way that feels really good to you and really aligned for you. And one of the things I have people do is I always say, I want you to go away and I want you to think about, how do you like to be sold to? Because you buy stuff all the time. How do
Yes.
you like to be sold to? And when you really think about that, that can really inform your sales system. And I don't mean like literally, like, like necessarily literally, oh, I just like to go shopping online with no one talking to me and put stuff in a cart. But what I'm saying is, something made you go to that particular website or like that particular brand or like that particular thing, and
Yes.
you have to start to figure out what makes you want to buy from someone or what makes you want to invest in someone, and how do you like that person to tell you how they can help you and how much it's going to cost. And
Yes.
then we can build that for you.
I feel like this is probably a lead into, so I have these 3 questions that I always ask each
Okay.
guest, and I feel like what you're talking about maybe is a lead in
Okay.
to, the first of these questions, which is if there is like a soapbox message
Yeah.
that's sort of infused into everything you teach, say, do, believe, like, what would you say that soapbox message
I would
is?
say there's no such thing as failure, and change is an opportunity to evolve. That you are not meant to stay the same. You are not meant to keep doing the exact same thing or like everything, or things can become not good anymore, and that's okay. But your job is to evolve and figure out what is the universe telling you is next for you, rather than thinking that you've ever failed at anything, or that just because you're feeling that a change is necessary or maybe it's been thrust upon you, you have to see that as an opportunity to become what's next for you.
Yes, so, so inspiring. And so the next question is like for the listener who undoubtedly is like inspired by that message and like they're expanding, their heart is opening. And then there's that little like, I'm overwhelmed. Like I'm inspired to move forward, but I'm so overwhelmed. Where do I start?
Yeah.
What would your words of encouragement be to that person?
I mean, first of all, my words of encouragement to that person would be like, "Oh my God, thank God you're an actual human being," because if you didn't experience that, then maybe you're a sociopath.
Totally.
So 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 I think that, like, that the best thing that you can do is be human, and then also decide that like you're not going to stay the same as 98% of human beings who hit that moment of whatever, and then retreat. So you just have to decide you're going to be in the really really small percentage, because it is a small percentage of humans who hit that moment of fear or like paralysis or overwhelm or whatever you want to name it, and actually go, I mean, I know this sounds really cliche, but how are you going to feel the fear and do it anyway? Well, you're just going to ask yourself, like, what is the next thing that I can do? And sometimes, and listen, I mean, I'll sell me and Anna. So hire Anna, hire me. In other words, when we reach those moments of our humanity, then the next thing that we often need some sort of support.
Yeah. Yeah. And the same is true for me. This is the work that I do. This is the work that you do. And I'm also a human. And I also hire someone to hold my hand through what is
Always.
scary
Are
for
you
me.
kidding? I'm like, I mean, I haven't not had a coach since like the first year I became a coach. I am
Yeah.
never without a coach, and sometimes I have multiple different people that I work with for different reasons, you know?
Yes.
I
Myself
mean,
as
because
well.
like as weird as it sounds, sometimes we have to get over our fear of emailing our email list. Like there's so many things that come up as you go, but the first thing of like what do you say when that comes up, the worst thing you could do is think that that's a sign that only you are not supposed to pursue your thing. Instead, you have to see it as a sign that, oh, you're human, and human brains do not like change and they do not like the unknown. And so the very first thing you have to do is the work.
Yes. Stacey, thank you so much for all of this wisdom and inspiration. And I want people to be able to actually reach out to you, actually connect with you as easily as possible. I'll obviously put all of your links into the show notes, but what are a couple of places that people can reach out and like communicate with you?
Yeah, I love communication, just so you know. Like, I love getting messages. I mean, I don't love getting those cold pitch DMs, but I love getting actual
Don't
messages
censor
from
those.
human beings. So, I mean, I see my messages on Instagram, I see my messages on Facebook. I get my own emails. I know I'm like the weird business owner. Like my friends are like, "What? You manage your inbox?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." If you reach out to me, I will reach back out to you. And I love hearing from you. And yeah, I mean, I'm very easy to reach basically.
So, how do people reach you?
They can message me on DM, they can message me, on Instagram, on Facebook, they can email me.
At
Um,
where? How do they find you?
oh,
What's your
okay.
handle?
Sorry. Okay, you're right. I'm always assuming. I'm like, it's my name. It's Stacey Brass-Russell, Stacey Brass-Russell. Mine, that is my name on Instagram. I don't have like a funky name or any. I'm not like the unicorn business coach. So it's Stacey Brass-Russell on Instagram, Stacey Brass-Russell Facebook, Stacey at StaceyBrassRussell.com is my
Love it.
email address. And yeah, and I mean, look, even we have like a contact form on my website that you can go to that page and just enter your name and write me a note, and I'm gonna get it.
Yes.
So yeah, so it's very easy for you to find me, Stacey Brass Russell, and my podcast, Passionate and Prosperous. I love just telling everyone that exists, because as you know, Anna, it's a true labor of love to do our
Mm.
podcasts.
It really is, and it's been such a pleasure and just a beautiful experience to get to meet and chat with you on this podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I really look forward to staying connected, and listeners, reach out. Stacey practices what she preaches. She has a relationship-centered business, and she will reach back out to you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for inviting me. This was great.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. And before we wrap up, I wanted to share an invitation with you. If you've been circling a change in your business, a next chapter in your creative practice, or a new version of yourself that you haven't fully stepped into yet, I want you to know that you do not have to go it alone. Stepping into something new can feel scary, but it's a lot less scary and a lot more fun when you have a community to encourage you and hold a safe space as you experiment and take things one step at a time. My group, Seen and Safe, is a space for sensitive creatives, practitioners, and entrepreneurs who are in exactly that in between place. We meet twice a month to work with fear, identity shifts, and visibility in a way that's supportive, grounded, and nervous system aware. Enrollment opens on January 14th, and space is intentionally limited to keep the group intimate. So if you already know that you want to join us, make sure you're on the wait list so that you're notified the moment doors open. And if you'd like a taste of what the group experience is like, I'm also hosting a free live workshop on January 20th where you can get a feel for the work and hang out with me in real time. I would love to see you there. You'll find links to both of those in the show notes, along with my email if you have any questions. And no matter what, I hope this conversation reminds you that change doesn't mean you've failed. It often means you are listening to that inner guidance. Thanks for being here. And until next time, take good care. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do me a favor. Hit that follow button so you don't miss a thing and leave a rating or review. It helps more people find this show, and honestly, it makes my day. And if you're looking for more ways to trust yourself and start listening to that gut instinct of yours, come hang out with me on Instagram at Anna_Holtzman. Let's keep the conversation going. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, trust yourself. You've got this.